Hey guys, it's Miss Bryant. I am so excited that today, on week 2 of this third round of distance learning, you guys are going to be learning a little bit more about line plots. Now, I know that we covered line plots just a little bit whenever we were back in school. So, hopefully, this will be just a little refresher for you all. Remember, in 4th grade, line plots deal with fractions. So, not only will this line plot activity be a review of line plots, it will also be a review of learning and remembering what to do with fractions. I hope you enjoy today's lesson. I miss you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, so this first problem says the line plot below shows the number of miles different students in Miss Frank's class walk to school. The first thing we want to do is get familiar with our line plot. So we see that the name of our line plot is called Walking to School. We see at the bottom it says distance walk to school in miles. So that means each of the X's on our line plot is representative of a person or student in Miss Frank's class. And the numbers on the bottom tell us how far each of these students walked. Of all the students, Eric walks the longest distance to school, and Lena walks the shortest distance to school. How many more miles does Eric walk to school than Lena? Alright, so if we want to figure out how many more miles Eric walks to school than Lena walks to school, the first thing we need to do is figure out how far does Eric walk and how far does Lena walk. Okay, so going back up to read that question again, it says, of the students, Eric walks the longest distance. So looking at our line plot, it shows us that the student that walked the longest distance walked 1 7/8 miles. Okay. And then it tells us that Lena walks the shortest distance to school. So looking at our line plot again, it shows us that there were 2 students that walked 2/8 of a mile, and that would be the shortest distance. So Lena walks 2/8 of a mile. The question says, how many more miles does Eric walk to school than Lena? Alright, I want you just to take a minute to think. If we want to find out how many more miles Eric walks to school than Lena, what type of problem do you think we will need to do? Okay, I hope you said we need to subtract. Okay, if we take away how many miles Lena walked from how many miles Eric walked, we will get the total difference of how much farther Eric walked than Lena. So the way this problem is set up, it's all you have to do is take the fraction from the fraction. So 2/8 from 7/8 is 5/8. And then we have no whole number here, so we just bring down our 1. So Eric walked 1 5/8 miles farther than Lena did. So our next question says, a girl recorded the approximate time in hours she spends jogging during each day in a week. Okay, so here we have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 2/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 3/4. The question says, which line plot represents the data? So remember on the line plot that we saw previously, each X represented the student that ran that number of miles. So that's the same thing that we're going to see here. Each on these line plots, if you look down at your examples here, you see that they're all set up the same way. So they all start with 0, and then they have 1/4, then they have 2/4, then they have 3/4, and then they have a whole. So what I recommend you do is I recommend you go ahead, draw this out, look at the answer, look at the number of students that it gave you, the information that it gives you, the 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 2/4, 2/4, 3/4, 3/4. Go ahead and make your line plot and then look at the answer choices. That is always, in my opinion, the best way to solve a problem like this, because then you don't get overwhelmed with looking at the data. All right, so if you'll pause the video, I want you to go ahead and plot on your line plot, and then we will see which answer choice matches our picture. All right, so go ahead and pause it. Okay, so now you can see that this is what my line plot looks like. Hopefully yours looks the same. So I saw 1/4 3 times. So I put 3 X's because each X again represents a person. And then I saw 2/4 2 times. So I put 2 X's above my 2/4. And then I saw 3/4 2 times. So again, I put 2 X's above my 3/4. So now I need to compare my chart with the answer choices. So I see that it can't be A because they have 4 instead of 3 for 1/4. It can't be B because they only have 1 for 1/4. It could be C because it has 3 for 1/4, but then whenever I look at 2/4, I see that we have an extra one there, and they only have 1 for 3/4, so I know it can't be C. So looking at D, I have 3/4, 3 for 1/4, 2 for 2/4, and 2 for 3/4. All right, so it matches ours. So there we go. The correct answer there is D. Awesome job, guys. Keep it up. The next problem we're going to do, it says this line plot shows the length in inches of the beads Olivia can put on her bracelet. If Olivia puts all these beads on her bracelet, what would be the total length in inches of the beads? Okay, so let's think about that. What type of equation do you think we should do? Should we add, subtract, multiply, or divide? What do you think? I hope you said add. Now, problems like this can get a little confusing because you have so many numbers that you're working with. So again, looking at the chart that we have here, the line plot, we see that each X represents a bead length. Okay, so what I recommend for problems like this is I would do each bead length, add all of those up, and see what the total is, and then add all of them together. So let me demonstrate what I mean, and then I'll let you pause the video and work it out, finish working it out yourself to see if we come up with the same answer. All right, so 1/4, I see 1/4 4 times. So I'm going to do 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. You could also do 1/4 times 4, and you will get 4/4. 4/4 is equal to what? I hope you said 1, because it is. All right, so I hope that you get the idea. If you'll go ahead and pause the video, you can add up all the other lengths, and then we'll see if we get the same answer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you something. I wanted to show you this before I simplified my answers. So if you look, whenever I added up my 1/2, I got 5 halves. Well, as you remember, that is an improper fraction. And we never, ever, ever leave a fraction as an improper fraction unless the directions tell us to do so. Well, here the directions did not tell us to do so. So we have to turn this improper fraction into a mixed number. And to do that, I need to think, how many groups of 2 are there in 5? There's several ways I can do this. My favorite way is to skip count by 2 and see how many times I can skip count by 2 before I go over 5. So if I go 2, 4, 6 is too high. So I know that there are 2 wholes, because this will be the same as 1 whole is 2/4. 2 wholes is 4 halves. And then I subtract. I take my 5 halves and I subtract 4 halves from it, and I'm left with 1/2. Okay, so this here is equal to 2. So I have 2 and 1/2. Right? Okay. All right, same thing here. I now have 6/4. Well, that is also an improper fraction. So I'm going to think, how many groups of 4 will go into 6? So 4, 8. Of course, the answer is 1. So it's equal to 1 whole. and this is 4/4. So I take 6/4, subtract 4/4, and I have left 2/4. So 1 and 2/4. All right, now this is, oh my goodness, I love this. I love this. Okay, so we see that 1 and 2/4 can be simplified. So I want you to take a minute and think, what fraction is 1 and 2/4, or mixed number, I'm sorry. What mixed number is 1 and 2/4 equal to that has a denominator smaller than 4? I hope you said it was equal to 1 1/2, because it is. And we can prove that by taking our 2/4 and dividing it by 2/2, because 2/2 is equal to 1 whole. So we're basically dividing our fraction by a whole. 2 will go into 2 one time, and then 2 will go into 4 2 times. So it's equal to 1/2. I can also show that to you by doing a model. So it was in fourths, and I had 2 shaded. If I compose the fraction, which means make the pieces bigger, I can do that by dividing it by 2/2, which is what I did here. And you can see here it's equal to just 1/2. So it's the same thing. All right. So now I have all my pieces. I need to add them all up. So I have 3 plus 2 1/2 plus 1 1/2 plus 1. All right, 1/2 plus 1/2 is a whole. So I'm going to bring my whole up here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 wholes, which is inches. All right, so I have 8 inches. So the answer choice there would be C. Okay. All right, guys, before you get started on our work for today, there are a few things I do want to just review with you real quickly. It will help you on your work for today. Remember, today's work will be graded. Ms. Bowers and I are so excited to see what you have learned from this video and what you have learned by putting to use your knowledge from earlier in the year with fractions. Because this is not the first time we've done this, so it kind of is like just a review. All right, the first word I want to go over with you is quarter. All right, so I know that Ms. Bowers and I are not the only teachers that have talked to you about quarter, because this was something that we covered a lot in our number corner. So quarter, we saw it a lot when we were dealing with money. Think about a quarter. All right, guys, so here's our quarter. So when we're thinking about money, think about how many quarters there are in a dollar. How many quarters do you need to make $1? Okay, and I hope that you said 4. So 4 quarters, I could take the 4 quarters, and if I went to the bank, they would trade it for $1 because they're the same. They're equal. They're equivalent. Okay, so 4 quarters is equal to $1, right? So if I only had 1 quarter, then what fraction of the dollar do I have? 1/4, right? Because if I have 1 quarter, that's out of 4. So remember always that our denominator means how many pieces there are in the whole. So how many quarters does it take to make $1? Takes 4. So that's where that denominator comes from. And the numerator means how many pieces of the whole you have. You have 1 out of 4. So a quarter is equal to 1/4. That's going to be very important in what you're going to be dealing with today. Also, another math vocabulary word that I want to make sure that we cover is difference. Now, I know that this is not a new word, but I do want to remind you that difference means you subtract. Okay? So, anytime you see a question say, what is the difference? That means you're going to be subtracting 2 numbers. All right, guys, just a quick reminder that if you're doing the digital learning, that today you did the first part already, which was watch the math video. The second part is to do the line plot activity that your teacher, your math teacher, myself, or Miss Bowers assigned to you in Google Classrooms. Those questions are out there. There are 10 questions, and they will be for a grade, so do your absolute best. You can take a break at any time if you need to. If you need to look back through the video from today to kind of refresh your mind on it as you're working, that's perfectly fine. And also today you have a Flipgrid. So if you will go on to the Flipgrid website and look at the post that I posted for you. If you're in Miss Bowers' class, you can look at the post that she posted for you. And then if you will post your own question based on the line plot that you will see, that you see now, that would be great. And then also respond up here. That way that they can see that we're in there interacting with each other. I know it's awesome whenever you get excited when someone responds to you. So you can respond to as many people as you want to, but please respond to at least one. If you're doing the paper packet today, thank you so much for watching. You have in your packet that you will get tomorrow, you have a line plot sheet. It's the same thing that's in Google Classrooms for the digital learners. And instead of doing a Flipgrid, you get to create your own word problem based on this same line plot that is showing now on the screen, and solve it. You can have someone else in your family solve it, or you can solve it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Happy learning. Okay, guys, in case you forgot what our classroom looks like, I wanted to bring you back one last time while it still looks the same. I had to come make copies for students who are getting paper copies. That's what that is right there. Whoa, there's a lot of paper copies in it. So much. Miss you all. Love you so much. Can't wait to see you all again. I hope you're doing fantastic, staying at home, in the house, outside playing. All that's good. Just trying not to spread germs is what we're doing here at the Bryant household. I know I talked to Miss Bowers. I talked to all the teachers. Miss Bowers specifically because she's your math teacher as well. Her and Claire Kate are just having a good old time being at home. Luckily for them, her husband is also a teacher, so he's getting to work from home too. And I know that Claire Kate is just eating that up and loving it so much. So anyway, guys, I love you and I miss you, and I hope to see you soon.